we are on filmsgonewild.com. My name is John Wildman, and we are here at the Hot Springs Documentary Film Festival. And with us, we have one of the films making a world premiere at the Hot Springs Documentary Film Festival. The title of the film is You Have No Idea. We have with us Alexander Jeffery, who I've known for quite a while. He's a co-director, producer, editor, DP. Pretty sure he also did craft services on this. And we have Paul Burns, who's the executive producer and also one of the participants of the documentary. Of course, we call them participants now, not subjects, but he's one of the participants in the documentary. So guys, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having us.
All right, now we usually start these interviews off by having you guys introduce the audience because they probably have not seen the film yet.
Yeah.
So Alexander, why don't you tell us what the film is about?
Yeah, so our film, You Have No Idea, follows one family's journey with autism, the Burns family in El Dorado, Arkansas, Paul's family. And it sort of goes back in time and takes us through the journey of when Beth found out about Evan's diagnosis in the early 90s. Not much information was given to her at that time. She had to really fight and advocate for him in El Dorado. And she sort of brought that community along with her and really kind of paved the way for people like Evan in that community. And then we also have a portion that takes place in present day during COVID, which is, when COVID hit, Beth and Paul pulled Evan out of the home that he's in Magnolia and to live with them so they could control his environment. And with all his autoimmune stuff, they were really worried about him getting COVID. And this film picks up with the transition back to his group home, and the change that they have to take him through to get him back into that routine.
Now, I will say that routinely, as anybody who watches the Films Gone Wild interviews know, we pretty much never do an interview unless we've actually seen the film. I've not seen the film this time, and so we're going to focus, which we usually do anyway in Films Gone Wild, with the making of the film. And one of the things, and I was anxious to talk to you about this because you're not a documentarian, or you haven't been, as long as I've known you. And there are different muscles that you use, filmmaking muscles you use, narrative versus documentary. So let's talk about one. Alexander, why the hell did you make this movie? Why the hell did you get involved with this? Because you're a narrative filmmaker, and usually it's a significant reason to pull a filmmaker from one genre into the next. So talk about that.
Totally. Well, it's this guy's fault.
Yes,
for
completely
sure. But it's if you want to talk about sort of the origin.
Well, the origin was I wanted to create a birthday gift for Beth from Evan, and what we did was we did not incorporate that film with Beth. We brought in family, friends in the community, and they told the story for him. And so once these guys did such a great job with it, and we had that, we just knew that we had something really special on our hands, and then we sweet talked Beth into participating in the film.
Yeah, which is fun. So he'll tell you Beth, he'll be at home and Beth will be like, why would anybody want to watch a film about me and Evan? Why would we even want to do this? And I'm the reason you asked why this story, why me? I'm connected to the family for a long time in El Dorado, growing up in El Dorado. Beth's ex-husband, Dennis, I guess that's how we put it, was a wonderful performer on the stage at the Art Center and was a big, I was a big admirer of his as a kid. I watched this guy as an actor, and I knew Evan, I knew Beth. I actually wrote my college paper to get into the University of Nebraska for the acting program about Dennis. And Dennis died of leukemia in 2006.
Yes.
And so I know Evan, I know Beth, I know Paul. I've become part of this family, and to me, it just felt like just such a personal story, a unique look at El Dorado, Arkansas, where I grew up. Typically that part of the world is portrayed in sort of Duck Dynasty mode, and I mean, to be frank, right? And this is a very different lens into that world and that community, and I thought it was a really interesting challenge. Now that being said, I'm used to having a script and a limited amount of footage to cut the story together. And in narrative, it's the edit may shift the order of the script a little bit, but most of it's you have a general starting place to put it together. And this was, hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of interviews and BTS and all that.
Well, and that's you led me right to the next thing I want to talk about. And one, I also want to we need to give props to your co-director, who's not with us right now.
He is eliminating himself from being called co-director, which I still think of it in my head that he's the co-director, but
okay,
he's definitely a producer, and I think he co-directed.
Okay.
Paul Peterson.
Paul Peterson.
Yeah.
Who from this point forward, we will never say he's a co-director ever again. Okay, but let's talk about the editing process, because again, and in fact, I talk oftentimes when people take a writing credit on a documentary, and people go, "What does that mean?" Because it's all what did they write? You go, "Well, you're scripting in the editing bay what your film is."
Yeah.
And again, you as a filmmaker, it's a different approach than narrative, because you're not like choosing 2 shots to singles to masters to that type. Right. What you're doing is forming a story from all the footage that you glean from Paul and Evan and Beth and everybody else.
Yeah.
So what was that like for you?
I mean, to say it was a challenge would be a huge understatement. Luckily I am an editor, and Paul's a great editor, and and we also had the practice version of the birthday video to sort of learn what the story loosely was. Like, I would say that was sort of our sculpture, where we chiseled away the loose form, and then when we got into the feature, we had to figure out, okay, where do we plug in the present day stuff? Where does this, like, they have amazing footage from when Evan was going through training in Memphis too. So like, there's this archival footage that we could use, there's stock footage, there's like stylized shots that we decided to get. So it all just became like a big puzzle, which was kind of fun for me, to be honest, of like, how does this all fit together in a way that says something. And the first cut of the movie was like damn near 2 hours long, and obviously it was a bad movie at that point, but it was like, okay, now how do we form this? And so it was a long, drawn-out process through many years.
Whatever the film, the assembly cut is always a nightmare.
It's always, yeah.
I think it says something about these guys, that they were able to take not only the footage that they shot, but there were hours and hours of videos and videos, pictures,
photos,
and for them to be able to weave it together in such a magnificent manner was
well. And Paul, I'm always interested to talk about the dynamic between filmmakers and subject/participants in the films, because it's one thing, even though we now live in a society where we all expect to be on camera at some point in our lives, because that's just the way society kind of works now. There's still a very different dynamic to having a film being made about you, your loved ones, your family, whatever. There's a lot of trust that's involved in that. Now, in this case, a little bit different, because you literally invited them in. Like a vampire, they have to be invited into your home before they can do damage, right? You invited them in, but there can still be uncomfortable moments that are on film. There's still things that you have to kind of give yourself up to and go, listen, movie is going to be, as they say, warts and all. How was that for you? How was that for? And I've seen how the family works around Evan and kind of protects him and steers him around. How was that in managing all of that for you guys?
Well, first of all, they were very discreet, and that made all the difference in the world. They also spent a lot of time at the beginning really forming a relationship with Evan, which that helped ease all of our fears. But people will see when they watch the film, there will be no question in certain parts of it where you can tell it is a very intimate moment, and there are probably 2 or 3 of those. And it's a little daunting when you watch it and know you're about to share this with people.
Right. Okay, so you've seen the film.
Yes.
Of course, you've seen it countless times.
I've never seen it. I don't know what we're watching.
But what is the anticipation for you both, and it's come from different perspectives. For seeing it with an audience.
We want it to change lives. We want to bring an awareness to people that there's hope and love and community. It's emotional. Yeah. So, and there's issues in the future for people with autism, and we want to bring that to light. So we do have, our own little hopes and dreams about this film.
Right. And again, for you, like, again, I've seen films that you've made, and it's usually like, we're going to try to make people laugh themselves silly, or we're going to, try to nail them with some drama or whatever. Again, you're telling someone else who their story, who you've lived with them, so to speak, cinematically and realistically in a lot of ways. And now everybody's going to see what you did.
Yeah, it's definitely daunting, but it's also really exciting. I think it's one of those things where I know the story is great, and I just hope I didn't screw it up too badly.
Oh my goodness!
You know what I mean?
He did a great. Let me tell you something. There are serious moments in it, but they did a great job bringing out humor.
There is humor
and fun and love.
And I think it's important to say too, like, autism is such a wide spectrum, and this is one family's perspective and one family's journey. But I think there is something to be gleaned for everybody, because whether it's you have somebody in your family, or somebody, or a friend of a friend of a friend, it's like, I think what we try to show in this film is that it doesn't take much to show up for that person. And so if people can take that away from it, even if we change, a couple people's perspectives in that theater today, like, I think we'll have, started our job.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, again, the title of the film is You Have No Idea, which is going to be making its world premiere at the Hot Springs Documentary Film Festival. And we've been talking with Alexander Jeffery and Paul Burns. It's been great to have you guys on the show.
Thank you so much.
Sir.